Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and today's contract tip has to do with a documentation that you can use if you are working with a buyer and someone other than the buyer is actually contributing the earnest money. In other words, the earnest money is coming from someone else's account. Now, this is extremely important for your lender to know to avoid any delays down the line as you get closer to closing. If a lender simply sees a contract and it has X amount of dollars of earnest money coming from the buyer, the lender automatically is going to assume that those funds came from the buyer's own resources, the buyer's own bank account. If the down payment money did come from someone else's bank account, a parent, a friend, a loved one, a business, any other source, the lender needs to know that immediately, again, to avoid any delays or any contractual changes or amendments that will need to be done to the contract to avoid delays in closing. So the GAR form, the Georgia Realtors contract forms, has a form for you to use. It is F525, Acknowledgement of Person Contributing Earnest Money on behalf of the buyer. Now, this form is important for your lenders and it is also very important for your brokers. Now, it is not an exhibit. It does not need to be part of the contract. It's just a disclosure and an informational form, again, for the person that is contributing the earnest money and for the lender and for your brokers. And in essence, what it says is the person that is contributing the earnest money is not a party to the contract. There are no obligations of any of the parties, any of the agents or the brokers or the lender or the closing attorney for that matter, to talk to this person, although they're putting in the earnest money. And if there is a termination of the contract or any type of amendment where the earnest money gets dispersed back to the buyer, it goes back to the buyer on the contract, not the person whose name is on the check or who originated the funds. So, and it is signed by the person contributing the earnest money. Again, it's not an exhibit. And basically what it says is the undersigned is paying earnest money to the holder on behalf of the buyer of X amount of dollars, and you fill in the amount of money the person is contributing for the earnest money pursuant to the agreement. In doing so, the undersigned, and the undersigned is the person contributing the money, does hereby acknowledge that upon payment of the funds, they have no further right or claim of the same from the holder. Meaning, if there is a disbursement by the holder of the earnest money back to the buyer in the contract, it goes to the buyer named in the contract, not the person making the contribution. Holder shall handle and disperse funds as if it were the earnest money being paid solely by the buyer, and shall only deal with the buyer regarding the same. And then it gives an example. The undersigned shall communicate solely with the buyer on all matters relating to the earnest money paid by the undersigned on behalf of the buyer, including but not limited to repayment thereof. The holder shall be an express third-party beneficiary and may fully rely on this acknowledgement. And again, it is signed and dated by the person actually contributing the funds. So GAR Form F525, Acknowledgement of Person Contributing Earnest Money on behalf of the buyer. Again, get the person contributing those funds to sign this. Make sure the lender gets it immediately. Make sure the holder of the earnest money gets this immediately. And but it's not an exhibit to the contract. So the buyer and the seller don't sign it, and it is not referenced in the contract. Thank you guys so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your need with service, innovation, and education.